This is it. That's it. There is no, like, once you learn about the ruthless conditions that originally Zionist brigades and then Israel subjected Palestinians to, it's over. It's over. There's no going back. You can't do that. You understand the situation exactly as it is. Just read. Just read. Okay, here.
That being said, I do not stand with Israel at all on what's going on. And I'm finally starting to realize, for lack of a better term, how brainwashed I've been. I was taught to love Israel. I went to Jewish elementary and Jewish high school. And, we're singing the Hatikva, the national anthem. We're singing all these Jewish songs. And we're taught this one very specific view of history. We were taught basically that, like, the land was ours. We were taught that, like, well, we tried to offer them a solution. We tried to offer them peace, and they kept on attacking us. And the reason why we kept on gaining more and more land was because they would start wars with us. And we would defend ourselves, and we would just end up with more land. And so we would try and give it back to them every once in a while, but they wouldn't accept it. And now I'm starting to recognize more and more and more, firstly, that the Palestinians are living in, this is the phrase that's being thrown around, an open-air prison. 2.2 million people who are being restricted in their food, their water, their electricity, their fuel. Children who are born into a prison who are never going to be able to go anywhere and do anything. And this has been going on for 50 to 60 years. And we were taught to resent them. And so, obviously, again, the killing of innocent people by the Palestinians, awful, terrible, inexcusable. And then I watch Israel's response, carpet bombing this open-air prison with 2.2 million people. They're doing the same thing. I do not stand with Israel. I stand with the Palestinian people. I do not understand how we as Jews can stand by while a nation cries for freedom. They are trapped there. It might not be as explicit as putting them into gas chambers, but it's still genocide. And we talk as Jews in regards to the Holocaust of never again. Is it just never again to us? Or is it never again? Because I thought it meant never again. But we're still being taught this separation and this
Yeah, that's a really powerful sentiment, especially the never again side of things. Never again doesn't mean, oh, it can never happen again. Like, come on, surely everything else is different. Never again means understanding how it happened to ensure that it does not happen one more time.
Complete lack of identification of what is happening with these people. So, now, can I excuse the fact that being...
What about the rest of it? Oh, well, I don't know. Here.
To say this
is another example of someone who basically learned, or rather unlearned a lot of things that she had learned previously.
Pulling my perspective on Israel-Palestine out of my ass, okay? I'm not just guessing that Israel is committing a genocide against Palestine. I have studied and researched this. I have bona fides, and I will share them. First of all, I'm a Jewish woman. I was raised by a Zionist family. My grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. My family talks about our spirit of resistance and resilience constantly. Desiring goodness from the nation of Israel is in my blood, and still, I can see that this Zionist state is vicious, violent, and evil. If someone who is raised by a Zionist family, by people who believe that Israel has the right to exist and that it is our salvation, if I can overcome my pro-Israel bias and learn about this conflict, so can you. And frankly, I should not be calling it a conflict, it's a genocide. So when I was in college, around 2012, 2013, a bunch of my friends and loved ones started going on Birthright trips. And I knew enough then to ask the question when they got back from their Birthright trips, what about Palestine? And when these people I love, admire, and respect started talking about Palestinians and using language like terrorists, I knew I had to learn more. I also knew that I wanted to go on Birthright, and I was nervous about being brainwashed by the trip, and I should have been nervous. So before I went on Birthright, I decided at my small liberal arts school in Massachusetts to get a well-rounded perspective, educational perspective on Israeli-Palestinian politics. I took 4 courses: Suffering and Evil in the Jewish Tradition, The Jewish Experience, Middle East Politics, and Arab-Israeli Conflict. I also took international and comparative politics courses that often brought up Israel and Palestine in comparisons to, for example, apartheid South Africa. And by the time I finished my ample coursework on the subject before I went on Birthright, I was already pro-Palestine. Because once you are in the literature, once you are in the research...
This is it. That's it. There is no, like... Once you fucking learn about the ruthless conditions that originally Zionist brigades and then Israel subjected Palestinians to, it's over. It's over. There's no going back. You can't do that. You understand the situation exactly as it is. Just read. Just read. Don't fucking go on Ben Shapiro videos. Don't go on PragerU videos. Actually read a singular book on the conflict, on the matter, and you will develop an understanding that puts you at odds with 70% of the American population and almost 99% of the media. The messaging that you hear on this stuff is very deliberately crafted, specifically crafted, isolated to individual acts of atrocious violence, okay? As though that violence occurs in a fucking vacuum. You don't even need to read a book. Wikipedia will fucking radicalize you on the matter if you don't have time to read a fucking book. I mean, dude, documentaries. Yeah, Ilan Pappé is a good person to read for any of his work on the matter, okay? Of Exeter College. He is a formerly Israeli scholar who denounced the citizenship to Israel. Norman Finkelstein is another good source overall, dedicated his entire life to the sickening conditions that Palestinians are subjected to and has been punished and blacklisted as a consequence of that. Don't look to any of the new stuff that he talks about, of course. That doesn't matter. His formative work, his more important work is on Palestine. Noam Chomsky has written extensively on this, talked about this issue extensively as well. If you want to fucking watch YouTube videos, there you go. These are actual scholars, okay? Some of which are historians, some of which are not, but they're still scholars. It's just like Ilan Pappé is the first one that I mentioned. I asked Noah about who I could use to I guess anti-Zionist pill a conservative Jewish friend of mine who is eats the propaganda hook, line, and sinker. Like if there's any book that he would recommend, and he recommended Nathan Thrall's latest book. Nathan Thrall is an American Jew living in Israel, in Jerusalem, and his latest book that just came out is quite informative. Edward Said is good. Nathan Thrall has been suppressed for the crime of humanizing Palestinians in his latest book, A Day in the Life of Abed Salama, the Anatomy of a Jerusalem Tragedy, came out on sale on the 3rd this past month. It's just that, for the most part, okay, like these aren't even Arabic, Muslim, or Palestinian authors, so it must question you. Yeah, exactly. No. I do this very deliberately. Listen to me, chatters. I am speaking to the Western world. I'm speaking to Americans. There's a reason. Like, there are, of course, brilliant Palestinian authors as well on this. The reason why I use, for the most part, Jewish authors, Jewish scholars, is because I want to ensure that people understand that these guys are because there's a very common misconception or a very common racist trope that many people are not going to overcome when looking at this from a different perspective. This does not mean that my perspective is not informed by Palestinians or Arab scholars. Of course it is. My perspective is, let's continue.
Not the media stories about this, not the pro-Zionist rigmarole on CNN and MSNBC. Once you are in the literature and the data, this isn't a debate. This isn't a question. People talk about Israel-Palestine like it is incredibly complicated, and I reject that premise. It is not. We know that anti-Semitism exists globally, right? We know that Jews are not the most beloved population in the world. We know that Britain has a colonial history and they have taken on colonial projects even through the 20th and 21st centuries. Essentially, Britain already wanted to colonize Palestine. So did the United States.
To be fair, I think you are in a way biased against the Jewish people. Which books do you recommend? I gave him like 8 Jewish scholars, okay? And then he still went with, he said, interesting, then said, to be fair, I think you were biased in a way against the Jewish people. No, I'm not. If you think that I'm biased in a way against the Jewish people, you are fucking delusional, okay? Sorry, straight up. You are fucking delusional. Nobody would ever say, Hasan, you are biased against Muslims because you sometimes criticize Iran or you routinely criticize Saudi Arabia. You are Islamophobic. They never would say that. I am biased. It's just not against Jewish people. I'm biased against the Israeli state because I'm biased against apartheid. I'm biased against ethnic cleansing campaigns. I do not like ethnic cleansing campaigns.
And at the end of World War II, Britain and the US got to talking and they thought, who do we want to exploit for military labor someplace that is surrounded by brown people so that we can rape and pillage land that we don't currently have access to? Where's one part of the globe?
Your chat is overrun with Zionists and Israel apologists? No, it's not. That's crazy. You're ridiculous for saying that.
We haven't effectively colonized yet. And there was Palestine. And Britain had been trying to colonize Palestine already. And so this was passed off to Jews who had just survived the Holocaust as a gift. Here we're granting you this parcel of land so that you and your progeny can exist in peace and not be violated anymore. Congratulations. Except that land already belonged to someone. Palestinians were already living there. And the US and Britain didn't give a shit about the well-being of Jews. They didn't care. This wasn't a gift for Jews. This was always intended to be a trap of, you do our military labor for us. We'll put you here and we'll grant you this parcel of land that already belongs to someone, that there are already people on. And in return, you will rape and pillage that land for us and we'll just all share in the wealth. And it might be a good idea too if like your entire population were to, have conscripted military service so you can really defend that land that is yours, totally yours, bucko. And if you see who has emerged as the political leadership of Israel over the last few generations, this won't surprise you. This insidiousness will not surprise you. This is how you get Benjamin Netanyahu, someone who absolutely agrees to the premise of Israel as a Zionist ethno-nationalist state, who says, we are here for one thing and one thing only, is to garner as much wealth from this earth that we have, as much tourist property from this plot of land, convert it to...
Someone posted a link to the video you and Zach corrected, so I sent them the reaction video. Their response was, the video's not convincing because these guys are smug. Not sure what I can do at that point. I mean, if your friend is like, I believe the Israeli tourism guy over a fucking literal scholar of Palestinian history, then it's a wrap at that point. You know what I mean? That person is oblivious. Damn, bro, I can't believe the fucking Israeli tourism guy, who is not smug, by the way, as he says like the most unhinged shit about Muslims. I'm actually, I'm in shock at how smug the fucking Palestine historian is, like the actual fucking scholar on the matter. Wait, what? Norman Finkelstein? Conversation with Norman Finkelstein on Michaela Peterson's broadcast or podcast? What the fuck? It's on Twitter. Do you think if Benjamin Netanyahu leaves, this will continue? Fuck yes, I do. Benjamin Netanyahu is like a direct vestige of the horrifying apartheid actions. But this happened before Benjamin Netanyahu, and this will certainly continue after Benjamin Netanyahu as well. He's just simply one aspect of it. David Broggs, that guy from the PragerU video. Anyway, let's
dollars and build up a military so mighty, a military apparatus so great that we wind up producing the world's weaponry. Yes, we have mined this land, and we have used the land to give you war machinery so that we can all murder each other 1,000 times over. And to the people already living here, well, we'll murder them too. I took basically a semester and a half of college courses on this, and I know in my bones that what Israel is doing right now is a genocide. It's evil. What they've been doing for the last 75 years is a genocide. It is drip violence, slow violence, protracted harm. It is meant to exhaust the civilian population of Palestine. It is meant to exhaust all Palestinians out of their will to fight.
It's hard to build an argument either direction where people won't scream back genocide. Wait, what do you mean? Just because somebody fucking screams genocide doesn't change the reality that, like, they are conducting ethnic cleansing. Here's one thing you can't fucking actually argue against: numbers. Now, I have seen people try to argue against numbers by being like, oh, how can you say Palestinians and Palestinians are being ethnically cleansed? Well, there's 14 million of them total, okay? And the majority are living in diaspora. The 2.2 million living in the Gaza Strip are actually internal refugees. The other 2 million, also internal refugees in occupied West Bank, okay, pushed away from their homes. 700,000 of them have been expelled or was expelled during the Nakba, okay? Leading up to the Nakba, they were also being forcibly expelled with horrific war crimes being conducted towards them. Just because Palestinians have consistently still increased the number of their population does not change that reality. The idea that, like, oh man, Palestinians, well, their numbers increased over the course of many years. How can this be a genocide? Is an insane one. Of course, people still fuck. Okay, they do. Actually, in a lot of circumstances, people even have more children when the likelihood of their children surviving is low. You're not supposed to look at population growth numbers. Okay. You're supposed to look at what the projected rate of the population growth was supposed to be. If someone brings up the Palestinian population going up, just bring up the Uyghur population and watch their tune change. Exactly. Something I've also said was a forced cultural genocide with a mass surveillance state that's still in existence in China. But of course, you know, don't ask my fucking interlocutors. They will say, you're wrong on that, Hasan. You've never criticized China on that, Hasan. You've never said that, Hasan. Yes, I have. You just never heard of it. You never heard it because it doesn't suit your purpose, because you want to say, like, I dick ride China. That same narrative is used to deny the first Great Famine in Ireland in 1741, when proportionally more Irish died than in the 1940s because the population increased into the 1800s. Yeah, the shocking insight into Israel's apartheid, roadmap to apartheid with comparisons to South African apartheid is actually really good. I didn't even know this documentary existed, but it's comparisons I've made time and time again. My only fear, of course, is that there's going to be terms of service violation footage in here, because these documentaries in many instances show the gruesome nature of the apartheid and the violence that people are subjected to.
And all the benefit, the wealth garnered from that land goes to the primary stakeholders, not the Palestinian people to whom the land originally belonged.
What makes genocide unique is the intent to exterminate, not the number of population decrease. The Bosnian genocide is also established as genocide because of uncontrollable evidence of intent from the Serbs. The number of population in and of itself, Bosnia was not that large to begin with, so people use population number arguments so many times to deny it. Yes, saying the population numbers increased is one of the most common ways of denying any kind of fucking ethnic cleansing campaign, both successful or even unsuccessful. It is completely fucking ridiculous.